So unless you're changing the amount of money you're paying officers, you're moving money around, again, what we need to, so tell us that
And that's what we're
stop.
doing.
So what's the
No,
number?
don't tell us, we need to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, all we're asking you to do is if you move the money, okay? That's all we're asking for.
So
tonight. Move the money.
So we're trying to restructure
Yeah,
the salaries so that we can add a fifth officer? That's
right,
what
the
you're
way
telling
we
me?
can do it,
That's what he
That's
said.
what he's saying. He's saying.
Let him share with us,
Okay.
because he had, so let
So-
him share with us what he wants, if it's just the four for now, and then we'll deal with any additional later specifically, because we don't have the documents on it.
Okay.
So you can have a seat, Mr. Johnson, we'll deal with it, and see what
So how much money are
Lopez
we
wants on
releasing?
that. Councilman Wallace.
Yeah, so, like I said, we put 4 in contingency, so that's all should be in contingency. The extra 45,000 will have to be a budget amendment. Do you have that budget amendment?
no,
So they're
okay.
trying
But,
to.
no,
hear what I'm
no,
saying.
no, I want him to just
I
say,
know.
no, he doesn't have it, so we don't have
Hold
to.
on, Councilman Wallace has the floor, please, ask your question and please
Do
answer.
you have the budget amendment for the
Yeah,
45,000?
Right, I'm just trying to explain to you.
No, I'm just saying, yes or no?
Do you have a
the
piece of paper to hand us on
Cause,
this?
cause you, that means we
Okay,
can't have,
then-
then we can't have
then we're
discussion,
good.
so let's talk about
So
the
what-
4.
Right, we can deal with
Okay.
chief now, we got it.
So there's
Yeah,
not a,
thanks.
so what he's saying is there's not an additional 45,000. He's saying the money that we already allocated for contingency for 4 officers, they're gonna now split it up for 5 officers. That's what he's trying to
That's
explain.
No, but that's what we're saying in the, that's what
So
he's
there's not an
saying.
additional, so there's not an additional
But that's not how that-
45,000.
Thank you.
Right, you're correct. What we're saying, that's not how that works. We have outlined 4 positions. And if they wanna change that, they should bring us the documentation, and we could agree with that, that's the small stuff. But bring us the documentation, we don't, so what's been going on is the hiding of numbers and hiding them. Just bring us the document, we wanna approve it, if it's not gonna cost us no more, bring us the documentation with the 5 people, how much they're gonna get paid, equal the amount of money that's in contingent, and we move forward. But right now, this reads totally different. This reads that we're gonna move the money from contingent. Let's say contingent has a dollar amount. We don't even have that in front of us. So you wanna move contingent, the contingent to the police department, no problem. For 4 officers is what we've been told. But JJ, you're saying it's actually 5, so all we have to do is have that documentation.
We can get
List,
that. We can get
I'm trying to tell you what it is. List how much the people are gonna get paid, so it's 4 or 5 or however much, and give it to us so we can approve it.
If we could just tonight, if it's possible to, as Mr. Councilman.
Do you have the budget?
Yes.
Can you add up those 3 officers and that sergeant detective for us, because that's all they're asking right now. Let's just get
Give us
the
the-
information.
Nah,
But we still can't.
gotta have the
we still-
doc-
Yeah, we still can't, so.
You
like,
can't
we-
approve an ordinance with an attachment where there's no attachment.
So we don't have an ordinance?
We
to
have an
release?
ordinance, I drafted the ordinance, it's
Okay,
the
where's
attachments
that?
that's
Right
missing.
here. Well, this
Okay,
ordinance,
so-
but this is only has to do with the budget amendment. It
That,
doesn't talk about.
that is, the budget amendment includes release of contingency funds.
That's all
There
we
are
need.
2, no, there are
Add
2.
up the number, Jay.
There's
Please,
another
give
piece,
me the
correct?
number.
We should have another
That
piece of
is
paper.
correct, yes, you need another piece of
Yes,
paper
we're
showing
missing the other,
what
so we
funds
don't
are.
have it, so.
Wait, okay, well, we'll give it to you right now.
Just add it up, you don't
Okay.
tell us, just give it to us.
Can we just,
Councilman Randall.
I move that item 11 be moved to the next agenda.
Second.
You just bring it, just,
I got it here, y'all, just give me a half a second.
But we still don't have the documentation.
No, I'm gonna give you a documentation.
no, Mr. Johnson,
What's that?
the next thing I'd like to hear is the number.
Well,
Not
if
that
you
you're
give me
gonna
a
give it
half
to
a
us.
second, I will give it to you.
Then quit talking and get it. Yes, Councilman Jones.
It was a motion.
Councilman Jones has the
Motion's
floor.
on, the motion's been properly second. He didn't even bring it, Mr. Mayor. Motion's been made and was seconded by Councilman, Wallace.
Okay, well, we'll bring it to the next meeting.
Okay, would you state, I'm sorry, with all this.
I move that item 11 be moved to the next agenda when we have the proper documentation.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that item number 11 be moved to the next agenda until we have the proper documentation. Heard the motion? Did I say that right?
Sorry, Chief.
We have a meeting coming up next week.
on Monday, we have a
We
workshop.
had a workshop, but it was not a.
We gotta be posted, right?
It was posted.
We can have one action item on the workshop for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Sure.
posted.
So I move that this this one, I know how we like to do, this one item, we should put on the agenda for next Wednesday.
Accept that friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the sixth, right?
Yeah, whatever Thursday, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the sixth.
Okay, you got a friendly amendment that this one item be added to the agenda with all the documentation.
Yes, with-
Okay,
with the sixth.
any other readiness?
My readiness would be, JJ, for the structure of it, show that you guys, instead of 4 officers, you want 5.
Right,
Then
we'll
give us-
show you, go ahead.
I'll
Excuse me.
finish, JJ.
All right, I was gonna tell you, I was just gonna paraphrase. What we,
No, don't paraphrase
Okay.
for Councilman.
okay,
That's
Go ahead.
not, that's not appropriate.
Thank you.
So you
I-
said-
you said, you know, I respect you a lot, Mr. JJ, but could you please bring back to us, the amount of money with the 5, officers fitting that amount of money, so that way we could, make sure you send it to the attorney, cause I know that you have to provide us with the proper documentation, and so that way we can pass it.
okay, no problem, no problem.
Okay, any other readiness?
Could
All
we
in
also-
favor?
Can, are we gonna get information on the officers?
Well, I'm not sure, no, council said no.
Voluntarily, you can give it to them, but they're not, I mean, that's, remember, we've talked about whose job function that is for the actual officer.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Chair. Item 12? Item 12, right? A resolution of the City Council of the City of Purview, Texas, calling the general election of officers for May 2nd, 2020, calling for a special election for City Council Place 3, authorizing a joint election agreement and contract for election services with the Waller County Elections Administrator, and establishing a date for a runoff election if necessary. Council has the resolution. Is there anything that we need to be aware of other than basically just calling for the election?
Just a couple of things. It names the early voting site. Within it is the Waller County Community Center. It also has the attachment already drafted by Christy Eason. However, the attachment to the attachment, if you will, is just the little calendar. She doesn't actually put that out until she knows how many other municipalities will be in that. So the only thing that's missing in this is to be determined later, is determined by your elections administrator, Christy Eason.
Councilman Jones?
So this is saying that the city elections will be held at the community center as well?
No. The
That's what it says.
early,
That's what you just,
Early voting, yes,
I apologize.
yeah, which is
Just
the
the early.
week long of voting.
yes.
Early.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Councilman?
I have 3 questions. One, what is the amount that we're paying? I didn't see that. Number 2, is the language in our resolution, has that, other than the location and place, has that been changed? Like, so in reference to qualifying, section 6, excuse me? Is that a regular language, or is that something that we put that in?
That's the same as last year. Let me look at it.
All right, and then, the dates, Monday 20th, April 20th, and to Tuesday, April 28th. The Waller County Community Center location, we've come in and had a conversation in reference to House Bill 1888, that's affecting us as well. So where we only have one, it's saying we only have one location, or could we have an additional location, for voting? And what made us use the Waller County Community Center, for the City of Prairie View's election?
Not by determination.
So a question, yep.
These
Okay.
two.
I'll speak to that. In a meeting on campus, and from the meeting, we received a document with the university VP, Dr. Tim Sams, working with the different SGA and some other students and officials, and Mr. Frank Jackson as well. And their recommendation was the use of from that group on campus, their recommendation was using the Welcome Center on campus. And in looking at and addressing various concerns with the campus, parking, things like that that came out of a couple of meetings here with the election official, Ms. Easton, and the county judge and residents. It was determined that the Waller County Community Center is almost equidistant, if you will, and right down from the Welcome Center, and allowing everyone to go in and out without the campus restrictions and the concerns with ticketing or getting, you know, your passes or what have you. And even the area in pulling right up in front was more convenient because the parking over there is sometimes extremely packed all the way over to the Welcome Center from the Hobart Taylor building. So in looking at what was best for all, and both are almost side by side, one eliminated all the concerns, and that would be the Welcome Center.
All right, so we do have the ability to change the location. What is the pleasure of council? Again, we don't, well, I just went real quick. My concern, again, is that we have an open process for whatever that process is. And the second, do we know the cost? Because I thought, so the cost also determines something. And then it doesn't say where the elections is gonna be. I'm assuming that's City Hall. But are we gonna go back to 2 precincts or what are we doing on election day? Because I don't see that location in here on this contract.
Yeah, that's what's to be determined still.
So, but we don't have to list the
It does
election
have to
day?
be listed, but because she doesn't know how many entities are contracting with her at this time, it's the full list that gets put on top.
I move that we postpone item agenda.
We can't-
We don't have to pass this today.
Well, we gotta, we do.
You have till
Time frame?
February 14th, right? Is that the date you
By
have?
February
To
14th.
to actually call the election, yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah, Councilor Randall?
Does the new state mandate require that early voting be on the same location for the entirety?
I don't know if it's for local, like, when I read it,
It doesn't address it,
yeah, I don't think
actually.
it's for
It
local.
doesn't mention local elections.
I remember in HB, it talks about November elections, so our election is not a November election, so it doesn't apply if you look at the wording of it.
So in the past, there have been the election where there have been 2 days on campus, and there have been days here, there have been days at the community center. And when we talk about parking, their parking is not any better at the community center than at the MSC or at the Welcome Center. And I remember in 2013, when the current SGA president, who I kind of know pretty well, was fighting for getting this parking and getting this done when she was traveling to Washington DC, and she was communicating to all these people that there were specific stipulations about parking, about how anytime there's an election, that all of the front parking is supposed to be reserved for voting. And so we talk about disenfranchising, and we have to look at, because we're talking about a 7-day voting block where we're in, I don't know what map, but when I look at the Welcome Center, I look at the community center, they're not equal, they're not synonymous. They're not, to me, from what I can see, they're not close to being the same distance, but even still, we're trying to be the one city, the one,
That's right.
with the university that doesn't have voting on its campus. And for me, we have to look at, because I remember back in 2013, 2014, a lot of these people who are currently fighting this were sitting in those same rooms fighting for it.
Yeah.
So you have to ask what the motivation is. And then we have to look at how are we as a community going to look to disenfranchise the largest voting bloc within the county.
So let me say this, based off of that.
They're the largest voting bloc in the
Yeah.
Well,
so
the way, hold on, the way it's set up now, even with the November election, is, and what 1888 House Bill basically says is, because like you said, we used to have to look at, or people would call, where can we vote early today? And then it shifted over here, and a part of that was to uniform that so everyone would know in the same place. Now, even in the November election, it states that with early voting at the Waller County Community Center, that election day, you've got voting on campus in the MSC and at City Hall. And I would envision we were talking the same thing, I would think, for the city election, or there's no reason why we can't make that happen. So it is the same, if you will, so there will be voting on campus.
So is the
Yes.
location of the voting, is that a decision on the city or is that a
Yes.
decision on the county?
That's our
That's
decision.
us, so with that being said, it said that the branch early voting location in this document within the city of Prairie View shall be the Waller County Community Center located at Prairie View, Texas, but that doesn't have to be the case for local elections. So we can go, we've already been doing, and have two different spots, one on campus, and one Waller County Community, so whichever is best for the residents outside the university, and have it on campus. So we need to get this changed so that we can have those two locations on here, and so, I mean, you already made a motion,
So
already
let-
seconded.
So my recommendation is that the
Hold
first.
on, is there a motion on the floor?
There is a motion on the floor.
No, Jones made it to postpone it, and then
But,
seconded.
no, he started to, and then he stopped, and then I started talking.
Okay.
So it never,
So it
he
wasn't
never put a
second?
motion on the floor, and it was never seconded.
Okay, go ahead,
So
Councilman.
my recommendation before we put the motion on the floor is that, so since we can only have one voting location, the first 2 days be on campus, the rest of the first 2 or 3 days be on campus, and the rest of it be at the community center.
It's always been.
That's always been.
So that's the recommendation, so we can come forward. but
And
we put that-
election day has always been in
Yeah,
City Hall, so.
Yeah.
But then we would, okay, the question, so if we're gonna postpone it until making sure that that's clear on location, we can have the two locations and we don't fall under that statute. So the 7 days, the 20th through the 28th, which is really 8 days, we're saying that we put the to those two locations, so the update to this at the next city council meeting would be both locations?
Well, would it also be both locations, cause this one says the location and get the whole time frame
Yes,
from.
we
So
have to
we-
put the locations and the
and
date
time.
and time.
So,
And there's no
so
time on here.
from my precedent that I've had was that it was on campus for 3 days, then the rest.
It was 2 days, Monday and
No, it was
Tuesday.
2 days.
I've seen one where we had
Yeah.
3, we definitely had 3 before.
Yeah,
So I
it's
recommend the 3
No,
days.
it's never been 3 days.
It's never been 3 days. I've
No,
been,
we could,
I've been
never
to
been
4
three.
days.
so we set the date and we set the location, we set where, we set that.
Hold
Just
on,
so you know.
Councilwoman Williams.
I wanna know, first of all, what kind of permission do we have to get from President Simmons? Because she was the one complaining about the voting being in the MSC.
Whatever.
So, I mean, do we need to have a discussion with her before we
That's what-
change this again and then we have to change it again?
that's
Oh,
what-
yeah, for sure. Cause she would still have to lock down that place,
Right.
the MSC, which the postponing gives us a chance to have that conversation.
So I move that we postpone
Second,
item number 12.
second.
It's been probably moved and seconded that agenda item
To the next meeting.
number 12 be postponed to the next meeting. Any further motion, ready for the question?
I'm ready.
Councilman Randall?
Are we gonna include the
Adding those
changes
two
that
changes
we'd
we
like
just
to
talked
make?
about.
I think we need to right
Yeah,
now.
that's,
Oh,
that's
sure.
all.
You want to add a
Change.
amendment?
I just didn't think we should need to add the dates and the times. And the locations, date, time, and locations.
So what I'm hearing, I just wanna make sure I'm hearing this correctly. So confirm that 1888 doesn't
Doesn't impact that.
impact us until November, so that we can have two locations. And then if so, then change the locations to be the on-campus for the first,
No,
2 or
the
3.
usual schedule, which we do every voting
But
cycle.
well, I don't,
The first 2 days.
We'll have
Can I say
2 days.
something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have been working with Miss Eason. The one voting place it only applies to the early voting. That's it. It only applies to early voting.
Right.
Now, the other locations, I wasn't here, the other locations that you used last year or the year before, she plans on keeping those locations. That only applies to the early voting. So whichever places that you had before, you can have them put in here.
So
Is that
early-
what you're
no,
saying?
early voting is the only thing that's been affected. Election day's always been at City Hall.
Yes,
So,
it's still
early-
gonna be the same,
Right,
only early voting is
So
affected.
this,
They can only
that's what
have.
we're addressing is early voting.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
1880 bill affects us too?
Yeah,
affects
it
city-
affects,
So-
yes, it affects
so-
everyone for early voting,
So what we're
that's it.
saying
So it's only
is-
one place for early
So
voting.
what we're saying is for our one location during early voting, we want 2 days of that one location to be on campus and then
You
the.
cannot,
The way it's always been.
yep. She
That's
said,
considered 2 locations, you're saying?
yeah, it's
So
2
you can't have 2
locations.
separate locations for the entire early voting. It has to be in
No,
the same
it has to
place.
be one and it has to
1888
be
does affect city
consecutive.
elections.
You can't move it. So
Yeah.
if we said we'll put one.
It would have to be
vote-
open the whole time.
Yeah, if we
Yeah, it
said-
has to be open the whole time, one
if we
one
said-
place, and that's why it's such a problem, because instead of however many places you have before for early voting, it's only one.
Like you
Okay.
can't.
So everyone, for here, it's gonna be at the, community center, so they have to travel from wherever in Waller County and go to that, they gotta go to one place, it's only one place now, so they've picked it for, what is it, each precinct? It's
Yeah,
only
but does
one place.
But does that bill affect city?
I got House Bill
For early,
180 right here.
for early voting, that's what they said.
Okay,
Hold- hold-
so,
hold on.
so
Hold on.
stop,
Hold on,
stop.
let's let council speak, please, go ahead.
So, as Councilmember Wallace says, 1888 says November. in it.
November, right?
That,
It doesn't
that,
affect local
but
elections.
that doesn't mean that it hasn't been interpreted to include this one, so that's why I said my first task is to determine whether or not, and see what TML's position is on that issue.
Okay.
But the secondary issue that Ms. Bynum's bringing up is that is considered 2 locations, so if it can only be at one, then separating the days doesn't help.
Well, we need that information before we can discuss it.
So
Well,
I'll
You don't have
withdraw-
time
I'll
to,
withdraw
that
my
information.
amendment, we can
We'll
move
just
forward
postpone it.
with the agenda to postpone, and then we'll gather the additional information and add it as we find out the new information.
okay,
Call for the
We-
question, please.
just,
All those in favor say aye, or yes?
Wait, wait,
the only thing I wanted to point out is that this has to be done by February 14th. So maybe we'll have a couple of options for you with the next, so that we can change it on the fly if
So-
we need to.
If I can make, yeah, I'll be here. If I can make a request, if you could send us the information,
Ahead of time.
yeah, like, as soon as.
And then, should we make sure that the,
Hold on, we had a call for questions, it was just for the league, all in favor say aye? You
Uh,
don't have that.
what is the motion?
To postpone.
Postpone.
the next meeting.
And then do we know how much, I asked how much?
We'll get that all in the.
We're gonna get all of that information forward by the.
I have that information. If-
You have it?
I do, it's in the agreement itself, and it just depends on how many people participate. It's separated out via numbers.
Locations will change it.
It's like a pro rata, you
Okay.
pay your share,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn this meeting since no other agenda items have to take action.
No, we still got the tap fee and whatnot, just move it to the next meeting.
Yeah, number 19,
It's been
number
properly
20.
moved and seconded that the meeting be adjourned. And readiness?
Yeah.
You wanna table everything else to the next meeting?
Yeah, just table to the next agenda.
But these, so it was supposed to say discuss, consider, take action. And so could we include those on number 19, 20, 21?
Council, would you
So-
let them know why they
Yeah,
were?
so if the background material is turned into Ms. Bynum, then it would be take action. If the material's not turned in, we're leaving it on the agenda as a discussion item, but we can't take action without the background materials for an ordinance.
Because
You
the
have to
public
have
would
that.
like to know, it's gotta be posted.
You
more
will,
than a day.
again, the,
Yeah.
so we want the agenda item to read, discuss, consider, take action for next city council meeting. USW is supposed to submit the form that myself and Councilman Wallace spent time going over for, these 2 items. So you're saying just for that meeting, or is that period? I'm not understanding.
No, for example, for any meeting that you want an ordinance acted on, the background materials under your council ordinance have to be to Ms. Bynum by the Monday before. If they're not, we're not gonna remove the whole item from the agenda, we'll leave it on as a discussion item, but you can't take action on the ordinance that doesn't exist.
And, right, and
That's
so
all.
I'm saying at the next agenda, when do you get the information, it's gonna read, discuss, consider, take action.
As long as the information is, yeah, yeah.
Any other areas?
Move to adjourn.
Oh, that's just like a disappointment.
Did you have the document?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hey, can I keep that? She may not be willing to do it. more than
I was intending to say,
even if
make
it's
sure you give me my
legally
pen back.
I need
And
it.
then we'd have to run around elections.
I need
It would
water.
be a nightmare.
That's fine, I got it.
Get a
up
water?
here.
That's a cool little device.
I recorded the whole thing. And then I have to turn the camera off and.
Thank you, sir. Alrighty, can you send me an email so I can, send
Mr.
it,
Mayor.
the agenda item in?
You want me to send an email?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.